The following is a program of the Santa Barbara County Education Office. To learn more, visit sbceo.org.
Hi, I'm Susan Salcedo, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools, and I'm so delighted to welcome our guest today, CEO of Girls Inc. in Carpinteria, Victoria Juarez. Victoria, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Can't wait to talk all about Girls Inc. in Carpinteria and all of your leadership and experience. But before we dive right into all of that content, we'd love to hear more about you and your background, your childhood. Tell us a little bit about that, where you were brought up, your childhood, your family.
Well, I'm going to start with my parents because
Perfect.
they're such an important part of who I am and who my brothers and sisters are. They were born in Texas in the late 1930s and 40s, and for the first 15 years of my dad's life, he and his family followed the work from Texas to Kansas, Wyoming, Wisconsin. They were recruited annually by the sugar beet company to do work, so they were given a stipend and some money, and they would go and do the work. I would say in the 1950s, they settled in the San Joaquin Valley. My mom's story is somewhat similar, other than she and her family didn't travel to follow the work. They settled in the San Joaquin Valley in Devil's Den to harvest the crops. And at some point, my mom and my dad meet. My mom drops out of high school, gets married, and then has a family. She has 7 children. And so both my parents and some extended family settled in Kettleman City. And that is a rural town right off of the 41 with about 1,500 people.
So
and
small town.
Very small town. One public school, K through 8th, 300 students. And it was surrounded by cotton fields and the 5 freeway on one side. But we grew up with really the school as the center of the community because we didn't have very many resources. Other than, an after-school program that served maybe 20 kids, there wasn't much there. And so the school district actually did a great job at getting us involved as children. And so that was mostly through sports. And me and my brothers, my sisters, and my peers spent a lot of time on the basketball court or, on the football field, the volleyball court. But in general, it was a very supportive community. The resources were definitely lacking, and when you think about job opportunities, what was available in the 1980s and even in the early 90s was ag jobs, right? Because it's a rural area. With the drought, that became very difficult for the community and the surrounding towns because there weren't as many jobs available, and they turned to the service industry, so fast food, and maybe, cleaning homes in a faraway community from Kettleman City. So there wasn't a lot of opportunity there. As I was coming of age during the economic recession, the unemployment rate was 18%, and that was in 2010, 11. So certainly there were some challenges, but I think what I remember most too is also just the support from our teachers, our principal, our neighbors. There was definitely that feeling of community. Everyone plays a role, right?
Right.
In raising children and making our experiences positive. So.
Sounds great. So Kettleman City, small rural town, a family of 9. You had 7, right? So mom, dad, and 7 children, and a school that's really a big focal point for you and for your brothers and sisters with lots of sports.
Yep,
lots of sports. Yeah, lots of sports. And so from Kettleman City, you went off to college. What college did you attend, and what was your major, and what were your career aspirations?
So immediately my goal was just to leave the community, and I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I wanted to do it. And I had a really good friend who had come from LA, and so was very familiar with the area. And that really drove my decision to go to Cal State Long Beach, because I'd never been there. I didn't go on a tour. I just signed up, or I applied to tons of Cal States and got into that one. And she wanted to go to that one, and I was like, I'm following her. You know what I mean? Because I had never done it before.
Sure.
And so after making that decision and letting my parents know, and at the time they weren't really excited about it because I had talked about it, but I think they thought, she's not going to go through with it, she's going to stay home. I didn't. And I'll never forget the road out that last time. My boyfriend actually picked me up in his truck, threw my boxes in the back, and drove me off to meet my friend to attend college. And so I think initially it was really frightening.
Sure.
You just don't know what the big city is going to be like, but it ultimately was the best decision of my life. Just being exposed to so many different people and cultures, because in Kettleman everybody looked like me, and to step onto that campus at Cal State Long Beach
big
with
city.
27,000 students, and see that everyone just looks so different and so many different languages were being spoken, it was eye-opening, and I was like, I'm never going back. So it was one of those things.
Yeah.
But I ended up majoring in history, a long-time passion of mine. Decided that I was going to follow through with my decision to go into the Peace Corps. Had studied some Russian because I wanted to go to, I wanted to be placed in a satellite country, and Russian was the second language, a former satellite country, and Russian was the second language. And so I pursued that, met my now husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and moved to Russia immediately after graduation.
Incredible. This is, I know we're jumping a lot, and I wish we could stop at every little point, because it seems to me that those points and the connections really have impacted you as a leader, especially in what you're doing right now. And I can't wait to talk more about that, but let's talk
another
a little
time.
bit more. No, we'll talk about it today. But I want to talk a little bit more about your Peace Corps experience, because not everybody who's watching knows what it is like to be in the Peace Corps, but also what a huge transformative experience that is, and how that impacts you today. So can you tell us a little bit more about the Peace Corps experience?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I had this idea of what Russia was going to look like based on my own experience as a history major, and then just based on the period that we came of age. We still did grow up in the 80s and 90s with the Cold War propaganda, and so there was this idea of what the Russian was like. And just getting to be there and live with them made me realize immediately they're just like us, right? And I think that I had all these preconceived notions of who they were going to be. And at the end of the day, being with them for 2 years, we have many more things in common than we don't. And at the time, in working with parents and adults, I realized they want what we want. And at the time, they wanted their kids to be healthy. They wanted their kids to have access to an education so that they could live a better life. They wanted to live actually in a country without war. And they were not war at the time. I mean, there was stuff going on with Chechnya, but I mean, those are real things that every parent around the world wants for their children. And so it was transformative, in that sense. I think the second way in which it changed me is I had this idea of who I was. And I had wrapped my identity in our American flag for a number of reasons. My dad served in the war, not in the military. My brother did, and as I tied myself into that, when I got to Russia, people were like, "You're American?" And that really hurt. Of course, I'm American, but their idea of America is what they see on television, and at the time it was through Baywatch. And so they had this completely different idea, which made me sort of question myself and what is an American and what am I and how do I fit into all of this? So all of it was very eye-opening, but as a result of that experience, I decided that I wanted to go home and I wanted to pursue work in the nonprofit field and not jump into the State Department or do foreign service work as I had previously thought I wanted to do.
This is really incredible, Victoria. You talk so much about your own identity personally, but also as an American, and then being a worldwide traveler. It just really opened your eyes and clearly has influenced you deeply. And I know has influenced the girls that you work with. You're also first generation college student for your family, right?
Absolutely.
And in the 7 of you brothers and sisters, are you the first to have gone?
I'm not the first in my family. We are the first generation, but my oldest brother was the one that really paved the way for us. And so when I think about, some of the things that we were confronted with, it was my brother who really did break down those barriers to make it easier for us. But all of us have college degrees and have gone on to, do multiple things. And it was my mom who really stressed that education was going to be our way out of our situations.
Yeah. Wonderful. So your first generation college experience, your experience traveling to Russia, going from a small town to big city in terms of college, all of that rolled together to where you then decided you wanted to work with nonprofits. So paint us that pathway. So you came back to the United States and decided, okay, this is the work I'm going to do.
Right.
What is the work that you did? And then tell us how you got to Girls Inc. in Carpinteria.
So I moved back to Orange County and decided to pursue my work there because of the opportunity, many more nonprofits. And I found a job with Project Access. At the time, the organization was in their infancy stage, and so it was a great opportunity for me to learn from the bottom. And so my responsibility was to actually establish a family resource center within a housing development with 126 families, actually a really diverse community. And I just jumped right in. Didn't know very much, but had the support of my direct supervisor and my executive director. And so they let me try everything. It was, you name it, everything from knocking on doors and doing assessments to partnering with people asking for money, implementing programs, developing curriculum, but really meeting the needs of the children and families in those communities. That was the first goal. And it was there that I realized I did want to move up the ladder in terms of the organizational chart. And for me, it was about economic security, and it was about someday owning a home and doing all those wonderful things. And I knew that if I wanted to do those things, that I was going to have to do more and work my way up. And I had that support from my executive director at the time, which was great. So I went from there to the YMCA in Long Beach, spent a few years there, managed a larger team of people, a larger budget, worked with an amazing executive director who, again, really supported me in my efforts. And then shortly after, my husband got a job at the community college, and we made our way to Santa Barbara. So I started working for Storyteller Children's Center as a development associate, and I learned fundraising from the bottom up, which was amazing because I didn't know how to fundraise up until that point. And I mean, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it with Storyteller Children's Center, right? I mean, they have an amazing board. They had an amazing leader, Terry Ellison at the time. And I just had the opportunity to really learn the art of fundraising. I think people think, well, you can just come up with a plan and it's going to happen, but there's so much more to getting to know people and cultivating relationships, right?
Right.
And I learned from the best.
Yeah.
So from there, I went to Girls Inc. when the opportunity presented itself.
Great. Well, lucky us that you're there as the CEO of Girls Inc. in Carpinteria. So tell us how long the Girls Inc. in Carpinteria has been in existence, and let's talk about its mission.
So Dorothy Campbell established Girls Inc. in Carp in 1971, and at that point she had assessed what else was going on in the community, learned that Girls Inc. Santa Barbara had a site, and she said, I want to bring that to Carpinteria. And so she and a few other people raised some money, purchased a 2-bedroom house, and started to serve girls. I would say, 30 or so years later, they outgrew the space and they moved into the campus that we're in today, 16,000 square feet, $2.4 million. And so what we've been able to do is to inspire more girls to be strong, smart, and bold, and to provide them with more programs through 16,000 square feet of land, which has been amazing. But our mission is to inspire all girls to be strong, smart, and bold, and to provide them with a safe and nurturing place where they feel heard and valued, a place where they can explore and take risk and really learn who they are. And this is done through a variety of programs, but ultimately our goal is also to take these girls and to connect them with people and resources in our community to ensure that they can achieve their dreams. And that could be a career or college. Our goal is to meet them where they are and then support them and their families.
Strong, smart, and bold. I can see why you are the CEO of that organization with that mission, truly, because I think it reflects who you are. And the 16,000 square foot place now, where is that? If we were to drive to Carpinteria, how would we get there?
You know, it's off of Foothill 5315. You know, you exit Linden Freeway, make a left, and it's not too far from there. But it's surrounded by nurseries and a beautiful park.
And what are the ages of the girls that are served in your programs?
4 through 18 years of age, so TK through 12th grade. And we're open Monday through Friday, year-round, about 1:30 to 6 during the school year. Summer breaks and winter breaks were 7:30 to 6 p.m.
And how many total children are accessing
We're serving
your programs?
About 715 girls a year. The majority of those girls are in Carpinteria, but we recently expanded into Santa Paula. And so we're now serving girls there and in Oxnard at the juvenile justice system. But we have a campus-based program, and then when we think about serving more girls, we've moved to the outreach model. So we're at Aliso, Canalino, and then 2 schools in Santa Paula.
Great. And some have their own transportation over and some are bussed in? And
so the majority of the girls are transported from their schools to our campus, and then those that are in the outreach program, we go to them. Okay. So we're going to them in their classrooms and providing services, snack, and the Girls Inc. experience.
So what are some of the programs that are being offered? Because it's a robust, very busy place, lots of things for all different grade levels and ages. So what are some, maybe some of the signature ones, or as many as you can just outline for us?
So I think it's important to keep in mind that our goal is to provide a continuum of programs, right? So we're starting with K through 12th grade. And when we think about elementary girls, what we're really trying to do is provide supportive environments, but also support them in mastering their academic skills, because that's where they're learning to become learners, and they're learning their confidence and all of those things. So we do that through our academic program, our support program, through literacy, giving them the tools that they need or putting them in contact with people and volunteers to support them in those areas. But it's also having them develop a love for STEM. And so we have STEM Fridays. They're taking part in hands-on, fun, gooey stuff. And then as middle school girls, we learn that girls are starting to assert themselves. They're starting to speak up, to say things, to make the decisions for themselves and kind of figure out, all right, who am I at this age? And so our job there too is to provide them with programs like the Eureka program. That's a 5-year college-bound program doing lots of amazing things by putting them on a college campus and in externships. But we're also focusing on health and being strong at that age. What does that mean to make healthy decisions, to eat healthy, to take part in sports, so that the girl is well-rounded. And then by the time they go into high school, the girls, for the most part, have discovered their role in the world and have an idea of how they want to approach whatever it is they're passionate about. And so our goal is to support them in their efforts to get into college or career, to take them on college tours, but also provide opportunities for them to use their voice and advocate for issues that are important to them. And we do that again through the Eureka program. We send girls to Washington, D.C. to lobby their Congress people on behalf of their community.
The Eureka program. Well, thank you, first of all, before I go into Eureka specifically, but thank you for that outline. I'm sure that just brushes the surface of all
it
that
does,
is. Yeah,
I know. It's
there's so much that you provide, and I am curious, too, if many of your students continue on from TK through high school. You'll probably see them, year in and year out, and see their progress through time.
And we do. We have a number of girls that are with us from actually kindergarten kindergarten to about 3rd or 4th grade. We see a drop off in maybe 5th or 6th grade, and then they come back to us. But many of them are with us through this continuum.
That's great. So Eureka, you mentioned it a couple times. You talked about college-bound experiences, but let's pause there and you can tell us more about specifically the Eureka program, who it serves and what do you do? What do the girls do?
So in 2012, we embarked on this project, and one of the first questions we asked ourselves is, what can we do in our community to meet the needs of the girls? The school district was going through the cradle to career movement and had come up with these touch points, and college and career was one of them. So that was the real idea for us. Like, we have this great program, let's meet the needs of the community and work with everyone in it to ensure that girls have the opportunities for this. So the program targets first-generation college students, and it puts them on a college campus in their 1st and 2nd years for a total of 8 weeks. Girls are at UCSB working with their program facilitators and mentors, but also taking part in STEM activities and programs in partnership with departments at UCSB. The most important part to this program is that the girls are on the college campus, and they get to feel and experience what that is like, because many of them have family members that did not take part in furthering their secondary education. And so it's really important that they just have that feeling of what it likes to be there, because along with that comes confidence. In their 3rd summer, the girls take part in an externship. So they're partnered with a STEM business, and they work 80 hours. They get a stipend at the end of their service. And before they can do that, they take part in 1-week orientation. And so they're learning things that are very important, right? The soft skills, the hard skills, resume writing. How do you behave, in an interview or in the workplace? I think things that we take for granted that are things we need to provide for girls. In the 4th summer, the girls go to Washington, D.C., and they spend a week there touring college campuses, coding with some of the businesses, but most importantly, they spend a day on Capitol Hill. And we've done that for the last 3 years. In preparation for that, girls will spend a week with a Eureka coordinator, really processing issues that are important to them, and we call it a tree, and they come up with the core issue and then all the topics that they want to talk about, and then they present them. And there's a lot to be said. How many people get to go to the nation's capital, right? And then they get to sit in the offices and they get to represent their families and their community. And that's such a powerful experience. It was for me in April when I did it for the first time in 2014 as an adult. And so I know it is for our girls as well. In the 5th year, the girls are really focused on submitting those applications. It's such a stressful time, and it's made even more stressful when you don't have that support from family members because they don't know what to do. And so we're there to provide support in the application process, but to bring partners in to help as well, to take them on college tours. Just this year, we had our program director take one of our Eureka members to her orientation at Cal State Bakersfield because her mom couldn't do it. Her mom didn't have transportation. And so the team is going above and beyond, to get the girls the support that they need.
Great experiences and so many connections, I think, to your life too, in terms of experiences of not having gone to a college before going to college. And
it's like, who told me I had to bring my mom?
Nobody told me. I
remember showing up and I was like, why are all these parents here?
And so you're providing these experiences for these young women in Carpinteria so that they can really, experience things that they will as adults. Part of it too is advocacy, it sounds like, which is really a true incredible experience. So kudos to the program, and Eureka has gotten a lot of publicity, I think, and sounds like there's really good reason for not only the program but for the girls too. And one of the things you talked about were partnerships, and just briefly, if you can share some of the key partnerships or some of the ways the key partnerships really support your programs.
Well, we learned early on that we can operate in silos, and so that was one of our first goals. So we went to the Carpinteria Unified School District, and we said, we're here to serve you. We are serving the same girls. How can we work together to work this out? And we started with just open communication and talking about the girls and their needs, academic needs, emotional needs. and ensuring that we're on the same page. So the Carpinteria Unified School District is one of the most important partnerships that we have, especially in such a small community, because they also are the hub, right, in Carpinteria. We've partnered with the Early Academic Outreach Program, and they are critical to Eureka because they not only serve as our host, but they too are the experts in first-generation college students. And so they've really helped us develop our framework and program over the last 6 years. There's Easy Lift Transportation, who from the get-go said, we're going to transport your girls. And this piece is critical because I think that we often forget that transportation is a barrier for many of the girls that we serve. So one of the first questions when we were recruiting in that first year was, well, how am I supposed to get her there? I can't get her there, you know. I don't have a car, or we only have one car and we use it for, and so we found that transportation was a barrier, and Easy Lift really supports us in our efforts to do that and overcoming that. We have wonderful partnerships with Santa Barbara Museum of Art. They come on campus once a semester to provide a quality, enriching experience for our girls.
Quality, enriching, those are two really important adjectives, I think, for your programs, because you can clearly hear it and see it as you describe it. And you know, part of what's so wonderful in hearing your story today is really your leadership in all of this, your experience in leadership. And you know, I'm thinking about you as far as you can see the joy that you have in being CEO of this organization. What would you say is one of your favorite parts, best parts of having this job?
Girls. It's really fun to watch them on a daily basis. You know, it could be jumping out of the van and running to the front door, or in the sandbox with the worm, or just playing. But just the joy, knowing that they can come here and this is their second home. This is their backyard for a lot of them, right? Because many of them live in apartments. And so they come here and they know what they're going to get. They know that they're going to have a good time, but just to see that joy.
And how do you feed your leadership soul? How do you continue to learn and grow as a leader? You must, I know you do. So is it professional learning, or perhaps a book that you're reading? How is it that you feed that?
You know, I think that it depends on the season. I do reach out to many of my colleagues who have been in the field longer to keep me going and to get the support that I need, because they're, you know, they have a wealth of information. I'm reading right now Janesville by Amy Goldstein, and it's about the fallout of GM in Wisconsin. And while the book isn't about leadership, the author uses local leaders in the community to tell the story. And it just reminds me how times can be really uncertain. And as a leader, it's not always easy. And sometimes you feel nauseous, right?
Right.
But if we work together to solve problems, we could get through this. And so I haven't completed the book, but leaders are working together in the book, and they're working together to solve a pretty serious problem. So it just reminds me that teamwork is critical.
Yeah. Well, you really embody teamwork. You're so collaborative. Even in the partnerships you described today, you really pull together the community on behalf of the girls. These smart, strong, bold girls that you're supporting. I know as a Catherine Harvey Fellow before, you really tapped into the community as a leader, and you know, the book that you're reading, really, you could probably be a chapter in that book for sure. We're so fortunate to have you be the CEO of Girls Inc. in Carpinteria. We're finishing up the program. I can't believe how time flies, but last word for you, any message for the girls that are listening today in Carpinteria?
You know, we're here to support you. I mean, we're here to meet you where you are, and whatever we can do to help you achieve your goals and your dreams, we have your back. We are in your corner. So.
Thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Susan Salcedo, Santa Barbara County Superintendent of Schools. Thank you so much for joining us today for this edition of Schools of Thought.